When we're struggling in love, it can make life really difficult. Hi, I'm David Essel. I'm going to be giving you a series of tips on how to move your love relationship forward, especially if you're stuck and struggling, or maybe you're bored, or maybe you're just upset that you just can't get on the same page with your partner. I've got a great tip today. And we've been giving tips over the last several days on love and relationships, and this one is a big one. It's especially big because when we get ourselves into a position of arguing on a regular basis with our partner, it can be a very tough, difficult habit to get out of. We've worked with couples that have been together for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years, and 2 to 3 times a week they're getting into huge blowouts. And when you're in that kind of circumstance, there's something happens in the brain that I'm going to talk to you about right now. Many people are not familiar with it. And when that happens, you really do need professional help, a counselor, a relationship coach, a therapist, a minister, a priest, a rabbi. You need someone with experience in love and relationships to help you. And this is what I'm talking about. Over 20 years ago, we coined something called the adrenaline addiction cycle in love. And what that means is when two couples get into frequent arguments on a weekly basis, I'm talking about 2 or 3 times a week, you just find a way to piss off your partner, you roll your eyes, and all of a sudden they're freaking out over something. It may not seem logical, but it is logical when you understand the power of adrenaline. And let me tell you what happens. Every time you argue, there's a release of adrenaline because most of us argue to be right? I mean, we don't argue to agree. We argue to be right. And of course, our partner is arguing on their side to be right. So we have this adrenaline pumping into the body. Now, if it happens once a month or something like that, not a problem, okay? It's natural to go into disagreements in relationships. But when it happens regularly, here's what goes on in the body. Adrenaline is released. Now, when it's released regularly, meaning 2 to 3 times a week in arguments, guess what? There's something called adrenaline withdrawal. So your body gets used to 2 to 3 times a week of this adrenaline being released via arguing. And then all of a sudden, let's say you go, that's it. We're done. We're going to treat each other with respect. We're going to quit arguing. But then I remember I told you about the eye roll, right? The eye roll. And 4 days later, someone rolls their eyes and all of a sudden, bam. Why? Why can't we just take a big breath and go, okay, she's upset. Let her cool off. He's upset. Why do we have to go into an argument? And here's where the adrenaline addiction cycle in love comes into play. When there is not that release of adrenaline, the body is craving it. The body desires it. So it starts looking for a problem, even a tiny one, in order to get that release. The answer is something called disengagement and communication. Now, we can teach you this in our sessions. I can briefly tell you right now. One person has to be strong enough to disengage. In other words, when your partner rolls their eyes and you feel like going at them, you choose not to. And then 2 to 3 hours later, or maybe even 24 hours later, you sit down and talk. Honey, how did we get to that space last night? What can we do differently to get out of it? Do you see, now we're bringing logic in, because the only thing that works with the adrenaline addiction cycle in love is to shatter it, is to break the withdrawal, and then again the desire for the release of adrenaline. And it can only happen by reducing the amount of arguing. Now that might sound like common sense, right? How easy is it? It's not very easy at all. And I would recommend, if you find yourself in that position, don't give up on your relationship yet. You may say, geez, David, we've been doing this for 20 years. That's okay. Don't give up on it yet. But you're not going to break it alone. You're not going to go through this process of reducing the amount of adrenaline and arguing on your own. If you could have done it on your own, you would have already, right? This is the time to reach out to a professional. As I mentioned before, a counselor, a therapist, a relationship coach, whatever it might be. There are certain techniques, even though I've been doing this for over 40 years, that we need professionals to guide us with, to guide us through. If I can help you, go to talkdavid.com right now. There is a sign that says Work with David one-on-one. Click on that. Send us a note saying, hey, I watched this video on love and relationships that David did with the adrenaline addiction cycle in love, and we need help. I'll work with you from anywhere in the world via phone and Skype. And we've been doing it, again, for over 40 years. Just visit talkdavid.com. Not tomorrow, not next Tuesday. Why don't we do it right now so I can help you turn your relationship around starting today? I'm David Essel. Have a beautiful day.